outside of kind of the remarks regarding Jurgen Klopp's nationality, which I think is inappropriate, he wasn't too far wrong about Klopp being a cunt.
Welcome back to the Lose to Win podcast with myself, Josh, Jack, and Ben. How are we doing, lads?
Good evening. Welcome.
Good evening.
Good to be back.
Yes, welcome back, Ben. You were missed.
I'm sure. I listened to the pod. It was very good. Good to hear Harry's story. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah. It's good to get a perspective of someone who's quite new, really.
Yeah, definitely.
He's kind of still adjusting, I would say.
Yeah,
although
definitely.
He's done very well. He's not really adjusted as he's gone straight in, but it's more just there's still, even a couple of months in, I think there feels like you're still trying to hit your stride, aren't you? Sometimes.
Yeah. I quite enjoyed his take on the ready meals thing. Actually, I thought it was actually quite sensible. I know we're not encouraged to eat those sorts of things because they're full of salt and things you're not supposed to eat. But the fact that you can follow your calorie count quite accurately and quite easily is not a bad shout at all. So so fair play. Good idea.
Finding some rhythm via it. And then like we suggested, then moving into creating the same meal again, but on your own, and less salt and less horrible stuff in it as well. So fair play to him. Done really well.
Yeah, good lad. Had a good game on Friday as well, didn't he? Little bugger.
He did, yeah. He's sadly picked up an injury now, though. So he's got a physio appointment tomorrow. So hopefully the outcome isn't too bad, and he's only out for a little bit. But he is he's one of our two last men standing, which I'm sure we'll come on to in the roundup. But he's desperate to continue and stay in that. So if he can do so, that'd be really helpful for the team.
Yeah,
be brilliant. Amazing.
Goal every week from now on, isn't it? Pretty much.
It's a goal a week now for everyone.
Yeah, it is.
Who's left in? So could be interesting.
Also, it's a sign of someone who's got good determination and willpower to keep turning up when you're injured. We know that, don't you, Jack? As you've been doing it, so keep it going. It's important. So
definitely
do well to keep going. But he will, unfortunately, have a chance to lose out on the Golden Boot, which I'm sure he's not thrilled about if he can't play.
Oh, did we get an update? Did we get an update on that this week? Haven't had one for a while.
What, 2 weeks?
Oh, did we do it? We did it.
Yeah. Well, Harry's leading. Harry's got 11.
Just to tribute every goal that Jordan scores from now to Harry anyway. I think that's what we've decided you're going to do anyway. So we're having great fun with Jordan over it. It's a lot less of a dig at you, more poking fun at Jordan. Or Shrek, as we should call him now. It was the Swamp Man jumping in the bloody river, which again I'm sure we'll come to.
Did he go to get the ball back?
Yeah, I'll just do it now. I could not breathe for laughing. I felt like my chest was going to explode how much I was laughing at him.
Did he fall in then?
No, so he booted the ball. I don't know what he was doing. He was pissing around before.
Wasn't it? Yeah, it was in the warm-up.
And he was like, he even said something like, let's pretend to be shit, and like booted the ball so far over the fence. And we're like, that's gone miles.
It's gone in the river.
It gone in the river, yeah. So he went round, and exactly as he said it was like on the bank, and he said it looked like concrete. So instead of like slowly walking down, he just jumped.
Oh, no.
And jumped. It was up to his balls in the river in a brand new pair of boots.
No.
2 minutes before he was kicking off. So he squelched his way back round, got the ball back, recovered the ball, squelched his way round.
The important thing, yeah.
I was talking to Rob from the Blues, and Jordan's shouting over, Jack, go to my car and get my bag. I'm like, what the fuck is he on about? Jack, go to the car. I'm like, you'll get there quicker than me, mate. I'm hobbling. It's like, I've jumped in the river. I can't fucking laughing now. I jumped in the river. I need my towel. go to my car. And so off I went. And he just before he kicked off, he'd literally just finished toweling himself down. And I could not believe it. The photo is something else. And yeah, like I say, it had us in absolute bits. I think I can't remember who else was on the sideline. There was a few people who literally had to sit down. They were laughing so much.
I was totally oblivious to that. Missed it completely.
I think you boys at the other end warming up.
Right,
so he'd gone, and then it was kind of like the ref had turned up and everything. And then, there's Jordan, old swamp boy, like up to his nuts in
nasty river water. Nice.
So
I could hear him squelching halfway through the game as he came past us playing.
Oh, it was awful. And just to top it off, he went straight from football to a engagement party at Iford Golf Club, and so he had a Spanish shower in the car and literally just dosed himself up with. And he said everybody that was near him was like, "You smell amazing," and he was like, "Funny story about that." so I think he was holding court at this engagement party, telling everybody this story about he just jumped in the river to retrieve a £5 Man v Fat football. So
Brilliant.
Very, very funny. Something that will live long in the memory, definitely.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So yes, we've had a good week then.
Yeah, it's been good. It's been ups and downs. I'm definitely missing my football. Obviously, come to watch a bit of yesterday while we were sorting out the 11s team in Little Downs pub, and I come to watch a bit of football, and it was far too cold to hang around for too much longer than about 15 minutes.
Chilly.
But watching you boys run around and enjoy the football, are just desperate. But gotta wait. Gotta bide my time. Don't want to do anything too soon.
Yeah, patience. Well, you wait, mate. When you come to the other side of Christmas, when you won't be able to play again, it'll be. I can't imagine your first game back. It'll be
something else. It'll be something else getting injured, won't it?
Yeah.
It's always the secondary thing, isn't it? When you come back from something and you haven't played for so long. But we'll see. I just need to. I need to do some more exercise. I'm doing quite a bit of walking, but I can.
You're doing some physio for it. They must have given you some exercise for it. Yeah.
Yeah. The exercises are pretty straightforward. I need to up the levels of. I've brought some resistance bands to try and build up the muscle. The biggest problem is about like the what's not fatigue, the kind of like the tiring of other muscles, where I was playing like 3 times a week.
Yeah.
To doing nothing other than walking, like hamstrings and everything else. So just got to be super careful and take it easy. But we'll see. I was meant to have an appointment with a specialist yesterday and found out on Monday that he's actually on holiday. So now it's on the 28th of November instead of being on the 12th of November. So I was really close to finding out, and now won't find out until the end of the month. So fun times. Wow. But all good. Indeed. How are you anyway, Ben? You all good?
I'm good, mate. I'm tired. I'm very busy at the moment, as well, you know, and I'm working lots and have the kids and obviously my lovely wife at home as well. So it's busy. But thankfully managed to get Friday to play footy, which is always good. Always make sure I get my Fridays. It's free. Definitely. But yeah, no, apart from I mean, it's good to be busy, right? It's good to have lots to do. And this is, as we repeatedly talk about, is the busiest time of year for me. So I've got another three weeks or so, and then that's me done, and I get a nice couple of weeks off over Christmas. So, which I'm actually quite scared about, because I'm feeling like I need to indulge.
Feeling the urge.
I'm starting to feel like Christmas is coming, and I'm thinking I might enjoy myself, and then I'm thinking no, because I did that last year and I put about 4 kilos on, so I don't really want to do that this year. I'm desperate not to do what I did last year, but I'm just getting that vibe. I'm getting that Christmas vibe. I'm thinking now a few drinkies and a few mince pies, and so I'm going to be battling with myself, I think. We're okay to talk about Christmas now, aren't we? Right? It's 4 weeks away.
I'd say so.
Yeah, go on.
I have to. It's the light at the end of my tunnel, so.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But all good. I was struggling with my legs a little bit before, but they seem to have chilled out a little bit. I had a bit of a tight hammy last night, but I'm hoping that's nothing too much to worry about, which is nice, not being injured all the time.
Your game time, aren't you? So you're doing Thursdays when you can now as well, which is really good.
I try not to do Thursdays. I'll only do a Thursday if I'm not playing on a Friday, because if I play on a Thursday, the chance of me playing on a Friday are pretty slim. But if
my
I can
days
get
are all
to
over the
Tuesday,
place. It feels like it was Thursday yesterday. Sorry, Tuesday.
Yeah, if I can get to a Tuesday, I'll try and get to a Tuesday. So that's good, because there was a time I wouldn't have been able to do that. So next weekend will be fun. Doing a Sunday after a Friday is always a tricky one.
Yes, yeah.
But so far, the last few times I've been okay. So. Yeah, fingers crossed.
What are your thoughts on the team? I know that you were involved in picking teams last time round.
I was, I didn't pick this one. Is it you released it? Oh God, you did it late last night.
It's all right, mate. Yeah, I did do it late last night. I've put you on the spot with that a little bit.
You have, you bugger.
I'm going to ref it as well, which should be fun.
Are you?
Yeah.
Are you
someone,
sure?
I did get asked about who was going to ref it, and I was just like, nope, not going to know. I'm not going to tell you.
You've unleashed it now.
Open to bribes, obviously.
Well, let's have a look then. Where are we? Okay.
Yeah.
You crack on. I'll have a quick look at this.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, maybe we can come back to it. So we should probably run into the roundup.
Oh,
just crack on with a staple part of the podcast.
Yeah.
And move into there. So Steve's gone quite eloquent this week.
Makes a
in
change.
His roundup. Yeah. Like
I've got to be careful because I know he listens. Sorry.
I know. No,
he had to go at me again last week for cocking up the bloody rule about the blooming, what's it called? The Biggest Losers game. I don't know what it is, why we can't seem to understand the rules behind it. But apologies again, Steve. I don't know what they are. So I'm just going to say, when anyone says to me, the biggest loser, I'm going to go, I don't know what it is.
No one knows the rules.
No one knows.
Yeah. Anyway, like a phoenix rising from the ashes, like an Olympic champion responding to a rival's kick for the line, like the mighty Fulham pulling out 2 additional time goals to claim well-deserved victory against jumped-up local rivals. You can tell Steve's written this, can't you?
That's good results, to be fair.
Yeah. Man v Fat Bournemouth responded to last week's disappointing weigh-in in the best possible way. So 26.2 kilos lost this week. Says we're back on track and ready to chase down further successes in the coming weeks, which is a good loss back to roughly where we are. In fact, it's been a little bit more than even some of our good weeks. So
what's our running total, Josh? Do you know? I'm going to put you on the spot.
Well, I'm sure it's going to be somewhere within here. Not that I've actually read it to the full extent. If it isn't, I'll have to find out in a bit and get back to you.
It's got to be around 250, 225, something like that.
Yeah, I don't think we're quite as high as that. I think we're probably close to the 200 mark.
Okay.
But I will check. There were plenty of goals and plenty of action on the pitch, on the scales, and in the case of Jordan Hayter, in the river. So miscellaneous goals were everywhere, with a double dose of last man standing bonuses, plus 3 goals from the Gladiator Games challenge, which we did this week as well.
Nice.
So the results then. The Reds won 8-4 against us Yellows. The Blacks won 11-7 against the Greens. The Oranges won by an astronomical 28-10 against the Whites. And then the last game, which I will leave you two to discuss very briefly, or as long as you want, I should say, was the 19-19 draw between the Purples and the Blues, which was, I think it's probably the highest scoring draw I've ever seen since we've been at Man v Fat. So
I think it is.
Epic duel.
Yeah.
It was.
Yes.
It was epic. It was a great game, actually. And I know we ended up really not on the pitch by a fair whack, but I don't think that really told the story of the game.
No.
But to draw on, do you know what? I said it in the chat, but I was really pleased actually that it was a draw. With those high scores, I've lost a high scoring game like that by 1 goal, and it's a real kick in the balls.
Yeah.
So to draw it was better for me than one of the teams losing by a goal. That would have been really mean, really harsh, especially with other teams, other games being won by like 8-4 or whatever. I mean, because that's really harsh. Both teams obviously did really well on the scales to get to those scores. So I thought, to be fair, it was a fair result, actually.
Absolutely.
Don't know what you think, Jack.
Yeah, from the sideline, I've never really noticed, actually. I'd say probably it's the first time with you. I noticed an urgency in how you were trying to get your guys forward. So that kind of gave us an indicator that there was something that you were aware of that we weren't, in terms of, I think, a couple of own goals for you, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So that's interesting to be able to pick that up, which I probably wouldn't have done. And we started to realise, I can't remember who was sub with me at the time. It might even been Harry. He was like, I think they've got Ben's trying to get them forward really quickly, and just your language kind of gave away that there was something, so we knew that it was going to be in it. And I just had that feeling that every goal was going to count, and I think George got one quite late, didn't he?
Yeah, got a late one.
Which inevitably we could say that was the equaliser effectively over all of it. But yeah, it is. You're right. It's a kick in the bollocks if you lose 19-20. That would be an absolute stinker. But yeah, we did everything we could. I think the gladiator challenge certainly helped. Josh did did very well again, but not to his own high standards, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
From our perspective, it was amazing, but he was a little bit disappointed that he's not achieving what he had previously done, because he's able to do 2 serious numbers. He did 100,000 steps. I think it ended up being like 103,000 steps over Sunday to Thursday. So we had to kind of talk. I had a conversation with him saying, if you think about you doing that much exercise, you're building muscle, that sort of thing as well.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's still absolutely going in the right direction, and he's a serious amount of weight loss as well. So he shouldn't be hard on himself, I think.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
And that's where I completely agree with you, Josh, and the idea behind not having these challenges in there to over push somebody and make somebody do something stupid and drastic.
Yeah.
And inevitably that's how the cookie crumbled, and each of our gladiators lost weight and did what they needed to do. So absolutely no slant on that. And yeah, overall a great game, a really good game on and off the pitch, and probably a fair result, Ben.
Yeah. We knew that you boys were going to be. Two things. We knew that Harry had hit his percentage because you gave it away on the podcast, and secondly, we thought you probably had the gladiators in the bag, because you got your 3 gladiators were 3 players that were in team of the week before. So we were like, there's a very good chance that those boys would have lost enough weight to win the gladiator challenge. So we were already what we felt were 6 goals or whatever it was down. Plus we had 2 own goals, which is why we knew that we had to push on the pitch, because we just weren't going to have enough from a weight loss. But even though the LMS goals came into play and we did really well on that, we knew we needed to get a good 3 or 4 goals difference on the pitch at least, which is why we were pushing the way we were. And like you say, it was a good game. It was a fair game. I got cornered a couple of times. Saved me going to the chiropractor this week, which was good. But no, I think it was a good game, played in good spirits, and it was a fair result. So yeah, fair play, mate. Enjoyed it.
We did actually. Sorry, really quickly, Josh. One thing I forgot to mention is we did turn around, I think, from the previous week, 3 own goals to not having any this time round. So the guys, there's a big shout out to those guys for taking that step back in the right direction and digging in and doing their part as much as you're gaining goals for milestones or gladiator or whatever. You're stopping us from losing any goals by getting yourself back on track, and that's really just as important as scoring the goals.
Yeah, definitely.
So that was really positive as well. So keep going, boys, and well done. Well done, the Purples.
Good, mate.
Yeah, I will just say on Josh Buxton, I use him as an example. I'm sure you won't mind me saying this, but you saying that he obviously did quite a lot because he was in the Gladiator to try and push himself to that next level beyond being top of team of the week, it seems, which is what he tends to be. And we sometimes say this, don't we? Sometimes, not always, but sometimes that can have a bit of a detrimental effect, because if you're not consistently doing that and haven't been doing it for a while, as you were saying, it's like you gain a bit of muscle and then actually you're not lost in weight terms quite as much as you were looking. It's still a healthier way of doing things, but it's it could be something like that. So arguably, if he'd done exactly the same as he'd done the week before, he could have
potentially
maybe a little bit more. So
I suspect he'll have one of those catch-up weeks. I reckon this week will be a big number that will kind of be that lag time of that exercise and the really tight calories. He probably would have. Well, I know he's not done as much steps this week, but he'll be up there again this week, I'm sure.
Yeah, and we should say though, spoiler alert here, he's in team of the week, so it's not like he did exactly poor, is it, by any standard at all in any way?
Exactly, but by his standards.
Yeah, so he shouldn't beat himself up about it, is all I would say. I appreciate that, obviously, with Gladiator games and that and what his previous numbers have been, but still phenomenal, isn't it, really? Team effort. So.
Definitely. Well done, boys.
Should just say, I did find out, so 196 kilos is where we stand as a league. So
how many weeks
pretty
we got
good.
left? 4 weeks left? 5.
Yes, we are week 10. So yeah, we got 5. Yes.
So if we go at this rate, we should get over 300.
Well,
20 a week. Come on, 21, 20 a week. Come on,
let's do it. Yeah.
21 a week, and we're there, and that's it. So
Do you reckon Steve will take us out for a pie if we all get to 300k? A celebratory pie.
Pie? Why pie?
Why not? It's Christmas. It'll be Christmas when we finish.
You mean mince pies?
Well, any pie. Turkey pie, ham pie.
Apple pie.
You can tell I'm looking forward to Christmas, can't you?
Yeah.
Sorry, lads.
Yeah.
Pork
anyway, despite the proliferation of miscellaneous bonus goals, they only changed one result with the Purples 6 bonuses, saving a high-scoring draw with the Blues for the 4 bonuses. So there you go. Well done to your Purples, but commiserations to the Blues, who were also the biggest losers of the week. So all 9 players lost weight for a collective 9.6 kilos. And for the second week in succession, they are the most represented side in Team of the Week. So elsewhere, the most eye-catching result was the Oranges' astonishing 28-goal performance against the Whites. 8 goals came on the pitch, 4-4 draw that was, becoming 8-4 due to ringer penalties.
Yeah, 2 ringers.
But an unrivaled tally of 9 miscellaneous goals for the Oranges capped an already impressive scales performance. So like the Blues, Oranges had a 100% weight loss record for those attending, with 9 out of 9 going in the right direction for a collective 7.9 kilos. Brilliant. So very well done. I believe they're top of the Scales League as well, which we may come to in a second. That all means that the Reds move level with the Purples at the top of the main league, although the Purples have a considerable advantage in goal difference. That may yet prove irrelevant as the 2 teams are due to meet this coming week. So we shall see on that one. Yeah. Blacks stretch their pitch league to 3 points, with the Yellows now the closest rival, while Oranges, as we mentioned, continue to lead the Scales League, with Reds 2 points behind, with 5 to go.
Very good.
Yes, yeah.
It's tight at the top, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, and there's so many teams mentioned in there as well that are within there, or runners up within a couple of points. So
yeah.
There you go. The Gladiator Games, as I mentioned, the challenge this week, were a close run thing, and with the Oranges claiming the winner's laurels. Their 3 chosen combatants losing a collective 5.1 kilos.
Very good.
The runners-up contest saw 3 teams separate by just 0.4 kilos for the last bonus goal on offer, so with the Whites 4.4 edging out the Blacks and the Blues. There were a couple of spectacular individual losses, but mostly the contest saw excellent results at the top end of what we normally see, which suggests everyone entered into the spirit of the challenge without being unrealistic or unsustainable, which is great to see, really.
Yeah, really good.
So remember that what we do at lunch echoes in eternity, as Steve's put. But I probably should just run down, by the way, on the full results on that, because I never actually acknowledged the full rundown. So we mentioned the Oranges won with 5.1 kilos, and the Whites got the other bonus goal for 4.4 kilos. The Blacks Gladiators lost 4.2. The Blues lost 4 kilos. Then the Yellows with 2.7, the Greens with 2.5, the Reds with 2.4, and the Purples with 2 kilos. So very respectable all around, basically. Very good. Especially when you're only picking 3 contestants as well.
Yeah.
So you can tell, even as you're with 2 kilos, it's a decent average, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So very good going. Last man standing saw 8 players claim a bonus goal for their 8-week perfect record of losses, while the 2 players getting knocked out saw the competition move to its endgame period. The 14 survivors all score a goal and will continue to do so every week they manage to stay in for the rest of the season. So Oranges and Purples each have 4 players remaining. Blacks and Blues have 2 apiece, while Reds and Greens are down to a single survivor each. Whites and Yellows, I should say, both saw a last man go out this week, and they will earn their bonus goal on the scales the old-fashioned way. So the 8 with the perfect records are Harry Reid, Josh Buxton, Ben Goodridge, well done, mate, Matt Waterman, Oscar Silic-Pilley, Gareth Hensby, Pete Courage, and Ravnath.
Strong lineup.
Strong, very strong lineup. Only one milestone this week, we should say, but it's an impressive one. Harry Reid, as the man of the pod from last week, and kind of gave it away, as we mentioned, only joined the club in August, but he's already reached his 10%, losing 14.9 kilos along the way.
Amazing.
His 3-goal bonus proved important as well, counteracting the Purple's miscellaneous surge to secure the draw for the Blues. So there were hat-tricks aplenty with 18 players, emulating Victor Gorkares. I should say sorry to Scott for that one, because that's, that's not me. I should
What's
say
his celebrations like this, is it? I wonder he does it today. For you two watching anyway, nobody else can see it.
And Tom Davey leads a Gladiator heavy, or not so heavy, team of the week.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tom.
So, yeah, indeed. With 6 out of the 7 having been nominated to represent their sides. The 3 players returning from last week's top table. So Ant Skirman and Josh Buxton both kept their places, along with Harry Reid. So all
Good
3
work,
Blues
boys.
returning.
Very good.
The only one of the 7 not to have donned the Lycra battle armour and entered the Colosseum. So I should say, I think it was Harry Reid, by the way, is the only one, I should say, who wasn't. He wasn't in the Gladiator, was he, list?
No.
So he's the only one who wasn't the Gladiator, I should say.
Fair.
So Tom Davey lost 4.1 kilos to lead team. I know, unreal. Michael Burt lost 3.9. Harry Reid lost 2.1. Paul Gibson lost 2.1. Ant Skirman lost 1.8. Josh Buxton lost 1.6. And Dimmy lost 1.6.
Dimmy's still there.
Well done, Dimmy.
Well done, mate.
Yeah. I should say, by the way, and I know this is a man from your team, but his name's come up quite a lot recently, and I know he's had a bit of a thing. Ant in your team seems to have really got back on it over the last few weeks or this season. I know he had a small patch. Sorry, Ant, if you're listening, I'm not trying to put you out in it's just more of a celebration of what you've done the last few weeks in particular. Just noticed your name has come up a lot, so very, very well done there.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. It's worth pointing out that there were also 5 players on 1.5 kilos, just a fraction away from sharing in top team glory. So congratulations to all concerned. It's a fine demonstration of the strength in depth currently on display at the club. It's been a great week, really. As we mentioned, close to 200 kilos overall, and
really
not far off 30 for the week. But the mark of champions is how they respond to success. So let's enjoy the moment and then set our sights on the next challenge. Another week of living well with sustainable lifestyles that balance enjoying ourselves and with staying healthy.
Yeah, brilliant.
So we go again. Got this.
Absolutely.
Great. I mean, Oranges are absolutely flying, aren't they? Go on, sorry.
I've just looked at the Scales League table.
Yeah.
Your goals for on the Scales is 80. The closest to you is 57.
Yeah, it's a bit bonkers, isn't it?
And your goal difference is 26, and again the closest is 15, which is the orange.
Yeah.
So your goals off the pitch have been incredible. It's just how those fixtures happen. Like for instance, our game on Friday ended up being a draw. So it's hard, isn't it, when you've got that? It's just sometimes how the cookie crumbles with it. I think somebody had mentioned about the Whites and how many games they had won. I think it might be Mike Andrews who's come in. I think he said to somebody, either me or somebody else, I vaguely remember saying, "Oh, how come that's the case?" And sometimes it's just how it happens, isn't it? It falls that way.
Yeah.
But I don't think I've ever seen that much of a swing in terms of goal difference. You've got orange. Remember, this is scales only, so you've got orange on 15, reds on 1, blacks on 4, you on 26.
Yeah, it's mad.
It's just absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
And that goal difference overall, it makes a difference for you, doesn't it?
Yeah,
because it is an extra point.
Well, yeah, it's basically like you said, it's an extra point if you're tied on whatever. If you're tied on points, then it's an extra point because it puts you top of the league. But it was early results actually that got us those. It was the early games against Greens and Blues actually that got us that difference. I mean, that Blues game where we pumped you like 8-1, which was a bit like one-sided, and it shouldn't really have been like that. But that gave us quite a big gap. But also because Matty carried over the 2 milestones into the first week, so we got a really massive goal difference against the Greens in the first week, and that's basically those 2 results that have given us that margin. But we had a few weeks where we lost a couple of games by really close margins. But you know, it is what it is. I mean, you can't take away from what the Oranges are doing, right? Because that the scores that they're pumping out and the consistency that they're pumping out, it just goes to show how sort of united they are as a team and how focused they are. And this might be a bit controversial, but I just want to point to 2 players that are in that team. And if you look at 2 particular players that are in that team, they've been in 2 of the best weight loss teams of the last few seasons as well. And that is Rav and Eddie.
Yeah.
Those two boys have been at the top of weight loss with their teams over the last 4 seasons.
Yeah.
So those boys clearly have the right attitude and the right influence within their team setup that is driving their teams forwards. So I just want to give a shout out to those two boys, because I know they're big voices in that team, and they're both very committed to their weight loss goals, and they're both smashing it. So fair play, lads. And also Gareth, of course, he's his mate as well, and of course the rest of the team. But you just look at those two lads that were in the greens. You know, they won back-to-back weight loss seasons. And now they're back in as the oranges, and I think they've unified that team. Personally, I might be wrong, but I think it's worth pointing out that they've been there or thereabouts for a while now. So fair play to them. I mean, that score's momentous, isn't it? And it's massive. 28. That's got to be that's got to be one of the highest scores. I can't remember. I mean, we've had scores in the 20s before, but never that high.
I was going to say, we've never had any in the 30s, have we? So to get 28, I would imagine that's probably the highest.
I mean, it has kind of, the stars have aligned in that it was last man standing came into play. That was the week 9 last man standing goals anyway, and then you had your challenge on top of that, which they managed to win.
Yeah.
So I mean, but even so, fucking hell, 28.
Yeah.
Marcus set down, isn't it? Highest 28.
Yeah. Fair play.
There you go. Try and beat it.
They're the ones to catch, definitely, on the weight loss. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. Very well done.
Brilliant.
Before we move on to football chat, while we've still got people's attention, I just wanted to remind people that there's a few reminders. Obviously, we've got the Christmas party on the 14th of December. That's at the George Taps in town. There's no cost involved. Just come along, have a pint or a Diet Coke or whatever you want to do, and enjoy some cheesy music, no doubt, being played, and just some laughs amongst the lads.
Christmas jumper mandatory? Or
no, it's only Ryan that has to dress up, wasn't it? That's what we agreed.
Ryan has to dress up like a reindeer.
He has to come as a turkey or something, And the other reminder is, and I'm sure people have seen it in the sporting news, but local hero Chris Billam-Smith, a friend of mine, I keep going on about, but he's fighting in Saudi Arabia on Saturday night. He'll be on TV at about 10 o'clock. He is fighting for the WBA Cruiserweight World Championship. So he is aiming to unify 2 belts of the WBO, which he currently holds, and he's fighting a chap called, I forget the guy's name, I think Gilberto Ramirez, that's it. So yeah, tune in, support a local talent, a local hero, and hopefully he comes home with another belt and sets a little bit of a record to be the first British boxer to unify the cruiserweight since David Haye, and that was quite some time ago. And David Haye was one hell of a fighter, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
So yeah, big shout out to Chris. I caught up with him earlier this week before he went, and he's positive as always. And the bookies are backing the other guy, and that's exactly what Chris loves. Every time he's defended the title or won a title, he's always been the underdog. So it's nothing different there. So good luck, mate.
Yeah, fair play. Yep. Good luck, mate. Happy days.
Yes. So, bit of football news. Where do you want to start, Josh?
Oh, come on, God. Josh, you hit us up.
Well, I'll tell you what. We'll start with the boring bit first, shall we? The Man United stuff, because I know you just want to get this out of the way.
I don't think it's boring.
Because we were meant to come to this a couple of weeks ago when it happened, and we're moving on now. So obviously Man United got rid of Ten Hag, RIP, but oh well, move on.
Did you see he went to watch Ajax and they lost their he was in the stand. It was the first game they lost in like 7 because he was in the stand watching. That was hilarious. Brilliant. Very funny.
But yeah, I think he was just slightly unlucky, but I think it was time to go. He just, whatever was happening wasn't working, was it? Either the players just weren't bothered, or like he just couldn't, whatever he was doing on the training pitch wasn't working, or he just couldn't mentality. I don't know what it was, but
could they? I think for me, watching them, because they're not shit players. They're good players, but they couldn't seem to play the way he wanted them to play. So he
came in, and when he came in, you'll remember they lost 4-0 to Brentford in their first game.
Yeah.
And the reason why they lost 4-0 to Brentford is not because they're shit, although that's accurate. It's more just because he tried to implement his system immediately without really any training behind it. Then he tried it again the next game, and I can't remember who it was they lost against then. He just tried it again the week after. I think and they were getting a little bit better at it, but he didn't stick with it. He then decided, nope, I just can't do this. It's not going to work with these players, and then changed it completely. So they then became not only not a good pressing team, but just not a good team. They had no structure at all. So just not a good.
Just dreadful.
They weren't. What's the word? They weren't very cohesive.
Did look a bit, mate. They looked totally lost for a
they
while.
relied, and then for the last 2 seasons, they've relied on their best players giving them moments.
Yeah.
So. Alas, that's where they've been for years and years and years, and it doesn't seem to have changed under any manager. So you would argue, surely it's the players. But that squad is actually, apart from a couple of players, and we're talking like Luke Shaw and Rashford and people like that, there aren't, and maybe Harry Maguire is probably a good example, there aren't actually much overlap. There isn't much overlap compared to there was, 4 years ago, let alone 2 years ago. So it's... Is it the players then? Is it the recruitment? I'm sure the recruitment's been poor. Don't get me wrong. Eric Ten Hag basically had just brought in whoever he wanted at the start.
Yeah.
This last summer was a bit more. Yeah, this last one was a bit more of an indication that they had some kind of thought process behind what they were trying to do. But he still got people like De Ligt in the door, which, don't get me wrong, is probably a good signing. But it's still a thought process to that. He had his full Dutch coaching staff, including Van Nistelrooy, come along. And nothing really improved. So he's gone, I
don't think the players brought into him by the end, but by the end of him, he definitely lost them, didn't he? I think they weren't playing for him. And I know I joked in the chat about Bruno turning up now. He's managed to get the manager sacked, but there is an element of that. You can see an increase. I think there was a bit on either Match Today or Sky Sports where they showed the stats from the last game that he played for Ten Hag to the first game he played for Van Nistelrooy, and there was a clear and obvious increase in his effort levels and everything else. And it's not fair to pin it on just the one player, as much as I'd love to, but that is the leader of. He's the captain. He's the leader of that, and that there will be players that will go right. There's clearly a revolt. We've heard it always happening. We've heard. John Obi Mikel was on Talk Sports saying whenever a manager came in, it was up to John Terry and Frank Lampard whether they made it or not. And if they didn't make it, they clicked their fingers and they were gone. And the player power is clearly there. And I think they realised that the outside noise, the abuse that he was getting, and the meme that he became, as well as the performances that were happening and everything else around it. I think it was time.
The writing was on the wall. Yeah. I just don't understand why they didn't do it in the summer. Now, my argument, by the way, just to counter slight devil's advocate on this, not because I'm a massive fan of Bruno Fernandes in particular, so I'm not going to point him out per se, but my argument would be that obviously they've been told to do certain things in the team under Ten Hag.
Yeah.
Bruno Fernandes has always been that kind of player who's been told to do kind of what he wants. He just floats because that's how you get the best out of him in theory. But because of that, there seemed to be no cohesion in the middle of the park and no real structure around it. And then it just, it breaks apart. And I think subconsciously, as you say, the players just feel like this isn't working week to week. They lose games, they lose confidence. They then just don't put the effort in, whether it's conscious or not. So I think some part of the maybe improvement and effort, as you would point out, is probably just subconscious. I don't think actually from watching the games, while you could see that the effort was slightly lower, I actually don't think it was a case of them not playing for the manager. I think it was a bit more of they're not sure what they're doing. And so they're just a little bit all over the place. And then that looks like poor effort. Yeah. And I think there's an element of that. Unlike under the previous managers, I didn't feel like he was gone because the players just gave up 100% and they just didn't know, like they just weren't working for him at all. You could clearly see moments where they weren't working. I think it's more just a case of they were just lost and they didn't know what they were meant to be doing. And then that kind of almost translates to less than ideal effort, if not, no effort. So Anyway, we'll see what comes of it.
What do you think of?
What do you think of the new man?
So, I kind of like the fact that they've moved quickly. I will say, because they've got someone clearly in mind, someone who's different. Because I know like all these things. I think I said this a couple of weeks ago on the pod. They've clearly tried to do, or they're trying to do, what quite a lot of clubs try to do, and that is get in early on someone who could be genuinely a world-class manager potentially, and hope it works, and then they could almost go back to like dominance level because of the money they've got on tap. So you could that's how you get sustained periods, if you just get luck out on a manager and a couple of players and it just clicks. So I know that's what they're trying to do. I don't know much about Amorim. I really don't. I'll admit I don't watch any football with Portuguese league. I don't know if any of you guys do.
No.
I do know he plays a 4-3-3 slash 3-4-2-1 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And exclusively, and he's claimed he's going to do that. He's going to try and do that when he starts here.
Yeah.
I actually think the United squad's suited a bit more to that, to be honest, with the number of defenders they have versus, we'll see what happens. I'm optimistic. Let's just say that.
I would be. I think so.
I think I'm optimistic. I just hope, even if it doesn't work to begin with, but you can see some level of improvement, buy-in from the players, that he keeps at it.
Yeah.
And he doesn't let up. And he says, no, this is the way we're going to do things. I'm hoping he will be tactically better in terms of creating patterns and structures on the pitch that they adhere to. Maybe keep Bruno Fernandes, if you can, in an actual 10 position and not tell him do what you want, basically. I don't know, but basically I'm optimistic. We'll see. There's obviously, they missed out on Tuchel, you could say. There was an argument of that. But the truth is, the only argument I saw, which I thought was a really good argument, to be fair, was if this was the case, why didn't they get rid of him in the summer? They were clearly shopping around. Amorim was clearly available.
But maybe they just.
I don't. Why is it now? Maybe it's a case of, and I mean,
they probably gave him. Do you know what the reality is? We don't really know what goes behind the scenes, but the reality is they probably gave him 3 months or whatever and said, look, see where we're at in 3 months. If it ain't working, then you're going to be on your way. And that, I mean, they're pretty. I mean, they must know, and they must have some form of plan of at least a short-term plan of if it's not working, because we knew it weren't working at the end of the season, didn't we? Last season we knew that potentially he should have gone in the summer. So that the bosses aren't stupid. They'd have turned around and said, look, we don't want you to go. We think you're good for the job, but it's not working right now. You need to sort it out. You've got 3 months to sort it out. If you don't, you're off ski. And they would have had a short list of managers that they wanted to get in, hence why they managed to get him.
I mean, it was clear they were talking to him in the international break before they got rid of him.
Yeah.
They're talking to Amorim, they were talking to, it was clear that was the case.
Yeah.
So we'll see. So they obviously had a plan, and I'm optimistic, but I think this season's a bit of a write-off. I'm just not really bothered, almost on some level.
That's good, that's a good place to be, where it doesn't really, where they can say, look, we've got a new manager. He's going to try and get some new players in, maybe in January, but then he's got next summer. You're not going to get relegated, so he's got next summer to build his own squad. So he's got basically, you've got 6 months of, 6 to 8 months of having a bit of a play around and seeing what he can get out of the current group of players and finding out what he needs to bring in. So it's quite a good place to be fair.
Yeah.
I will say just one last thing on this quick is that this is going to get me crucified amongst the Man United supporter base, to be fair, is more just the fact that I don't like the fact that there's already a lot of talk about the fact that he has to get top four. He has no choice.
Nah.
Because I think while Man United are a massive club, do not get me wrong, they are probably the, or if not one of the two biggest commercial clubs, at least in the world. People know that,
Yeah.
The issue here is that people live in the past far too much on this. It's been over a decade since they've had any level of what you would class as traditional Man United success. Yeah. And they had it for 30 years, and people just think, that's what we should be having.
Yeah.
They have no more divine right to do that than anyone else.
No.
Yeah. Just because they're Man United doesn't mean they have to be in the top four. It doesn't mean they have any more right than anyone else.
No.
It doesn't mean that that's the standard that they have to match all the time. Sometimes you just have to realise a little bit about where you are in the grand scheme of things. At the moment, they're not only behind City and Liverpool and Arsenal, and quite comfortably behind them, by the way. They're behind Aston Villa. They're probably Probably, well, they're probably, well, it might be, but they're probably probably behind Newcastle to some degree.
Yeah.
They're probably behind Spurs, despite how much people talk about Spurs. I know, Jack's face. But you know what I'm trying to say? They're probably behind a few of those teams. They might even be behind your Brightons and people like that. So, or at least on that level.
Yeah.
And if you're talking about that, that's like 7th, 8th, you know?
Yeah.
I know people talk about their squad and their squad is capable of 4th, but the truth is it? Like, we've seen this now for years now. Yeah. We've seen this for years. They've got some great individual players, don't get me wrong. You know how much I rate Bruno Fernandes, but like, as an example, but there's been no proof of that, apart from the odd FA Cup and League Cup, so it's not. Anyway,
from the outside looking in, very quickly, just on that one, from the outside looking in, he comes across as very likable, which I think he's got that kind of dogged, determined nature to him, but also very likable and sensible with he's not guarded. And I know it's a sweeping generalisation I've made before, but Erik ten Hag was very Dutch, wasn't it? He had the Dutch way about him.
Yeah.
And either you like it or you don't. And I don't think he endeared himself particularly well to a lot of people. I think the initial opinion of him was quite low. And I think from there, he just stepped up on the wrong foot. I've seen a few social media pictures, and I know you can make anything look good in a picture, where he's greeting some of the players, big hugs, big smiles. There seems to be a positive buzz around him. And having watched the last couple of games, purely because of interest and obviously because they beat City, the crowd reaction to him leaving should give you an idea of how much he means to them at Sporting. And what you're getting is what they believe is their best ever manager and somebody that is going to go far in the game. I think watch your space. I'm just pissed off that you didn't keep Ten Hag until at least gave us 3 points as well. You could have done us the courtesy all those years that we've jousted as the best two teams in the country. You could have done us that favour. But joking aside, I one to watch. I reckon what he doesn't want to do is get Europa Conference League this season. That could be the worst possible thing, because that's just a distraction, an unnecessary distraction. It doesn't do Man United any favours being in a competition as shit as that.
No.
You're better off without European football. Maybe nick another FA Cup next season or even this season under him, and then build from there. But it's definitely one to watch, and the sleeping giant might have just had a big enough poke to wake up and rise again.
I think the thing Ten Hag suffered with, everyone knows, is that he didn't see, there was no warmth in it. It was no real focus on the players. It was all focus on tactics and just being, and you can see from Amorim that he's just more of a people orientated thing. And that's
a modern day manager, isn't it?
Yeah. And ultimately, let's be honest, what a player's going to respond to, they're going to respond to people they like. They just like being around, and it's the same with people you train with, the same anyway. So hopefully just that alone, I think arguably if Erik ten Hag was just a bit warmer, he would have been far more successful.
Yeah, absolutely. Another subject worth talking about is Harry Kane digging out, and I'll just list off the players that have pulled out of this England squad. We've got Ramsdale, Trent, who we all saw go off injured. It seemed like a genuine injury. Levi Colwill, I'm not entirely sure about an injury for him. Declan Rice, who allegedly has broken a toe and played through the Chelsea game. Saka, who's played far too much football over the last 5 years and is falling apart. Cole Palmer, I wasn't overly sure, but it seemed like he was rushed into the game against Arsenal. Jack Grealish, who's not played for a while, and Phil Foden, who's been miles off it this season, absolutely miles off it this season. And I think Jared Branthwaite as one other that is still training with them, but not likely to be involved. So Harry Kane seems to have gone on the offensive a little bit and suggesting that players are pulling out of it and pulling out the England squad because they feel it's meaningless, and to him playing for England is absolutely his number one priority. And I think the three of us, I would speak for two of you as well, I think we agree that's what our stance would be if we were an England player. That would be our number one and what we would focus on. But I'm not entirely sure he's whether he's been misrepresented in this interview, or if because I've listened to it and he does seem to kind of double down on it. It's not like it's kind of a bit of a slip or or maybe that is the case. He's suggesting that has happened.
Well, he's England captain. He's England captain, isn't he? So he's kind of charged now under a new manager. If he's going to stay the England captain, he's kind of charged with making sure that the boys are all together. If we're going to go in and potentially win a World Cup as a team, they've got to be committed. And if they're not, which some of them might not be at this point because they've ducked out or their managers have said that they're not available, whatever. Maybe he's just doing his job and saying, look, if we want to be serious about this, we've got to be committed and we've got to play these games to get, as best the results as we can as a group of players. I don't know. You'd expect a captain to come out and say stuff like that if people are flaking out, and maybe give them a second thought of that. Actually, I'm not nailed on in this team, because you're looking at those players that have pulled out, and I'd say half of them are nailed on definite picks, right? Yeah, your Palmers and your Sakas and your Grealish,
well, Saka, Palmer, Foden, Grealish,
Rice, Foden. Trent. Yeah, they're all kind of nailed on first picks, and they know that because they've been built up to be part of the future. So I think he's probably fair. I think he's probably within his rights to do that. Maybe give him a little bit of a wake up. Do you think,
Josh?
Yeah, I think he is. My argument would be, as a devil's advocate here, is that if you're genuinely injured, you're genuinely injured.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I think it brings up a wider point around previous attitudes towards dropping out of the squad for injury.
Yeah,
I think because we know clubs are the real hands in this. I think the players kind of just go with it. Some players, I'm sure, think, you know what, I'm not going to get any game time. I might as well go to Dubai on holiday. I get that part, but there aren't actually probably that many of those players. I think there's just quite a few who go, look, I could benefit from having a rest.
Yeah.
Like in terms of, I've got a knock or I've got this injury, etc. And the club will just say, we've assessed him, he needs to rehab, etc. He can't go. And so there's an element where the clubs are kind of really the power in this. So I haven't actually heard the specific quotes, Jack, so you'll have to tell me, but could it be that Kane is kind of more alluding to the clubs being a little bit, stupid about it, or is it more specific players that he's like?
He's definitely suggested. He hasn't mentioned anything about club, but I completely get what you mean. And I think if we go back to yesteryear, Fergie was renowned for it. And he even came out and said that that's what he would do. He'd install into his boys that club over country. And I think probably pre-Southgate, and one thing that he did definitely do, and I think again the three of us agree on, is that he unified the fans, the players. Players wanted to go and play for England. They wanted to be there. And while we're in this weird limbo transition period, which I don't think has helped, we're in a position that maybe that has helped influence the decision for someone to go, I am a little, probably could play. And I think if it was Champions League quarterfinal tomorrow, they'd play for their teams.
Yeah.
But who doesn't play at that level? Who doesn't play without a knock? No, they say all the time, don't they? Nobody's ever 100% fit.
No. This is kind of my point when I was mentioning about Tuchel taking over now, because if Tuchel had taken over now, talking about new managers and how players up their games for new managers, you would have had most of them turn up.
Yeah, I suspect, I could be wrong here, but I suspect probably Rice will be there, even with a broken toe, if he played at the weekend, just because he'd want to be around the squad with Tuchel. Exactly, I'm not saying Jack knows more than me, but I'm just saying, as he's probably an example, I would have thought Palmer would be there. He's a
future captain, right? You'd say Rice was going to be a future captain, so
so I think people like that would probably be there if they felt like it's Tuchel's first camp, and they were like, we've got to. So I would be quite surprised to see if we had similar knocks and that in March, that they won't all turn up. I suspect they'll still go.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So I'm not a massive fan of this whole dropping out. I would just, in my point of view,
international window.
Again, I'm not a fan of the international window. I don't understand why they're once a month through September, October, November. I just don't like.
On a deeper thing, I heard as well that there's currently registered 91 injured players in the Premier League. And one question I want to ask you two. So what we see now in Premier League teams, now that you can have 5 substitutions, is you have starters and you generally have game finishers. It's almost turning into like what do they call the South African rugby players, that they call them the bomb squad. You have like the bomb squad that come on and finish the game.
Yeah.
We're almost at that point that you have finishers, players that are only playing 20, 30 minutes. I don't think bringing it to five substitutions has benefited the players and the clubs the way that they'd hoped, because the idea behind it, especially during the COVID times when there was players potentially having to miss because they've tested positive and things like that.
Yeah.
I think it's got to a point where it's now being considered that you'd always use all 5 of your subs. It's quite rare that they don't have that many substitutes used in a game. I think Pep went through his phase of not really making any, but he's kind of a law to himself with a lot of things. But having those finishes, are they only fit enough to do 30 minutes now because they're only ever playing competitively at that level for 30 minutes?
That's an argument.
The injuries are just stacking up, aren't they? If you think of that, you always hear about it, and there's always suggestions that eventually there'll be a boycott. You've got the Club World Cup in this summer and next summer coming. All of these things. I just feel like there's going to be a breaking point where at some point they're going to go, enough is enough. There's too much football. And I think as a consumer, we're quite greedy, aren't we? We want to see.
Yeah.
I hate it when there's not football on an evening. Even if I'm not watching it, I'm having a look at it and keeping an eye on it and what's going on.
Yeah.
So I think we've got to be careful what we wish for. We're damaging, not us, but they're damaging the product. Do we want to see Liverpool and City as the best 2 teams at the moment going at it with Salah, Gakpo, all of the Nunes, all of the top players playing, and the same for City with Rodri and Grealish and Foden on the pitch, because we're not getting that. And De Bruyne, look how long De Bruyne has not played for.
But I'll tell you something interesting that I read not so long ago about the way that football and the different competitions run now, and that is all the random time slots that people play in. It used to be be regimented. You play at 3:00 on a Saturday afternoon, or there'd be a Sunday game, and you might play a midweek game, which would be at a set time, which would be a kickoff at 7:45 or 7:30, whatever. Now games are played at all times of day, all days of the week, and it can change at the drop of a hat depending on if Sky want to back it or if TNT want to back it or whatever. And so the players, they're playing at a much higher level. And it's all about nutrition and rest periods and this, that, and the other. And when you've got this constant changing up of when the games are being played, they don't have the time to recover and recuperate from these periods of time. And that is quite often what is causing sort of niggling injuries that don't ever repair properly or don't ever recover from. That's definitely a factor, because it's been spoken about before, and that's why they get going on about the period over Christmas to have a rest period and this, that, and the other. But going back to what you were saying about the 5 sub rule, it's like any rule that comes in, they will always find a way to make that work as a tactic in their favour. So, and I think you're absolutely right. I mean, Arsenal, to be fair, is a prime example of using impact players. You can guarantee that players like Trossard, I mean, I know he started the last couple, but Trossard comes on. Martinelli usually is one of those subs that comes on, and they're going to be like for like swaps straight off the bat. So looking at it bizarrely from a fantasy football point of view, you can bring a player in knowing that he might not start, but you guarantee he's going to come on with 30 minutes to go, and he's probably going to score because of the way that teams set up their substitute players. So there are tactical ways of using those.
My only thing was back to the kind of fitness thing would be, is it a case of, I'll take Trossard as an example, as we were just talking about him. Is it a case of, because he knows he's basically never starting, or recent aside, he knows he's coming off the bench? Are you basically suggesting, Jack, that he's not quite as fit as he would be if he was playing 90 every week, and therefore he's not quite as prepared, and he's therefore getting injured?
Yeah, so Trossard is a great example where he's been thrust. It kind of is a great example because he isn't classed as an injured player. I believe he is away with Belgium. But if he were to be injured, you'd probably go back and go, the last 6 months of his career, he's been that last 30 minutes, like Ben said, he's that impact sub. And now, because of other injuries, he's been playing the whole game.
Longer,
No Odegaard for 6 weeks or whatever it's been.
Yeah.
He's been playing a lot, almost all of the games.
Yeah.
And there's got to be a detrimental effect to that.
Well, players like him as well, he plays at a real high intensity. He's got a lot of pace and he spends his game running up and down the wings. So that will have a bigger effect on him as well.
I did chuckle to myself, Ben, just quickly. Sorry, Josh. When you were talking about how they've changed the olden days, how you guarantee they'd play at Saturday at 3 p.m. 3 p.m. You've heard the stories about the Arsenal Wednesday drinking club, haven't you? How they'd always get Wednesdays off. So Merce, Adams, Bold, all of them. They'd be absolutely fucked now, wouldn't they? They wouldn't. How would they fit it in? How would they fit their day off drinking in? How would they survive in today's football? God
it is
knows.
mental though. The regimes they have, like they have specific stuff they have to do at like 10 o'clock in the morning. They'll have rice and chicken, and then an hour later they'll have an energy drink, and then an hour later they'll do this. So if you've got to start that regime at 5 o'clock in the morning because you're playing in, I don't know, midday, wherever, Spain at midday in somewhere or whatever, it's gonna fuck you up basically. So that that's a huge part of it.
Yeah. Sorry, Josh, you were saying, mate.
No, I can't remember what I was going to say, honestly, but it was probably just more around the devil's advocate side of things, is that they're professionals, footballers.
Yeah.
You talk about how,
and
almost the counter argument to what Ben was saying is that it's all about, they're all calculated nutrition and fitness programs and individual, they should be fit enough.
Yeah.
Is the devil's advocate argument.
If you overwork a machine, the machine breaks.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, but I'm just saying, nowadays, if there's ever a time where they could handle it, it should be now with modern sports science. Having said that, the players' argument on like how many games they play, I mean, come on. I mean, I'm starting to actually side with the players a little bit on this now. How many games they actually play is unbelievable. I know you were just saying, and I agree with you, that I'd love to watch football 24/7, but it's just, it's not really. I almost feel like until a streaming platform gets hold of all the football and they can then start moving the games back to the same time because you can watch it on demand.
That's a genuine way of resolving a lot of the problems.
Then it won't.
By getting rid of I don't know about you, but if you lived around the corner from QPR, you had the opportunity to go on a Saturday afternoon, 3 p.m. and take the boys to watch the football, or it's going to be on TV. Yes, I get it. You're not going to go every week because it's on TV, but there's nothing that beats that.
No, absolutely.
That live experience. And you imagine you've got two boys that are growing up and might get that buzz, that one moment that they go to Loftus Road and go, cool, this is why I see why my dad loves this now. This is now me. Do you know what I mean? You get that moment. You never replace that. You won't get that on the TV. The kids nowadays are flicking through YouTube like, what's next? They don't have the concentration span to sit and watch a 90-minute game on a TV. But when you've got the noise, the smell, everything going on, especially with such a traditional, amazing old stadium like Loftus Road, that's what encapsulates it. So why it's such an old tradition, the 3 p.m. blackout, to try and force people to make sure they're still going through the turnstiles. 95% of the teams get more money from TV revenue than turnstile anyway. So let it be. I get that will you get Accrington Stanley at 3 p.m. Accrington Stanley against Bromley at 3 p.m. or Chelsea against Tottenham? Are you going to sit and watch Chelsea against Tottenham on TV, or are you going to go to your Accrington Stanley game? That's the concern, isn't it? That they'll lose that game. The lower pyramid will suffer.
That's the kicker.
I mean, I agree with that. There is an element of something, and also, even with the big clubs, there's going to be an element of some normal match-going fans would go, you know what, I'm going to save my 70 quid ticket for Champions League. I'm going to go watch it at TV. And I'm saying Champions League is a different example, but I'm going to watch it at home instead. And what even with the big clubs, that won't matter. Because ultimately they'll still fill the stadium.
There's always somebody else to take it.
There'll always be the complaint that they're filling the stadiums with not true fans. I use the fingers here, but it's more just so you get fans from all over the world flying in because they can get tickets all of a sudden to games that they wouldn't have normally. I still think you'll have enough match-going hardcore fans that it won't matter for big teams, but I do think the argument for the smaller teams is going to be so I understand NFL, the 3 p.m. blackout. Yeah,
but they don't have 92 teams across the country playing all at the same time. Do you know what I mean? They've got 36 teams.
But I've changed it this year in the EFL that you can now half the games on a Saturday are played at 12:30, and you can watch them. You can watch them on
Sky Sports Plus thing, isn't it?
Yeah. So I mean that's
and all of the EFL Cup is on that as well. Yeah. So you can the nights earlier rounds when all of the games are on at the same time. That was pretty cool being able to pick your match. It reminds me of the old school. Do you remember the ITV when they had Champions League and they had like 8 games all on at once and you just scroll through on the red button which one you want to watch? Yeah. Imagine that was free to air TV once as well.
I know, that's mad, isn't it?
Madness. How those are the days.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
So they're going back to the original conversation about players pulling out of the England camp. Digressed massively.
It all adds up though, doesn't it?
Of course it does.
I'm sure it all has an impact in it, and for a long time, and the stick that the players will always be hit with is you earn enough money, shut up and get on with it. But if you want that product to be damaged, keep doing it. If you don't want that product to be as good as it's going to be.
After all, we were having this discussion, it's still human, so it's not. And that probably brings us on to the next argument we're probably going to have with another human who's been in trouble, but recently.
But his latest video today.
Yeah. But it's still, footballers are still going to be, they're still human ultimately. So it's like, yes, they get paid silly money, but that's all to do with the product.
Yeah.
And what the Premier League and you get paid for what you bring in, I guess, on some level. So it's just, I just think people have this thing where they see someone who gets paid even just 10 grand a week, let alone 150k a week or something. And they think all of a sudden I can dictate or I can say, or I can abuse you or whatever it is. So
yeah.
It's just a little bit. Yeah. Anyway, shall we move on to the next conversation?
I thoroughly enjoyed it.
I have to admit, I don't know much about this, if I'm really honest, because I haven't followed the news very recently on it.
I'll just give my opinion
the general understanding. So we're going to talk, just as a preface here, we're going to talk about David Coote and the refereeing scandal that's come out this week.
Outside of kind of the remarks regarding Jurgen Klopp's nationality, which I think is inappropriate, he wasn't too far wrong about Klopp being a cunt.
Well, yeah, maybe he wasn't. But
if you look back over some of the ways that he's treated and behaved towards officials, have you seen those pictures where he's screaming in linesmen's faces as he's running past and things like that? I'm not surprised that referee, he won't be the only referee that has that opinion about somebody, and I'm sure a lot of them have a similar opinion as a lot of fans do about Arteta's antics on the sideline and what they have to put up with. The biggest mistake he's made is having a conversation when somebody is fucking filming you.
Yes, totally
what are you doing, you tit?
Yeah.
And then this afternoon there's a video of him, or early evening there's a video of him polishing off a fresh white line of the white powder, and that just kind of Scott, to be fair,
that's exactly answers your question to why did he do it.
Exactly, he ain't got a clue, and just the way that he's talking, he's either a moron or he was on gear, and it was probably the second one, and I think he's made a big mistake, and I don't think I'm not saying he shouldn't, because people make mistakes in life and he can be reprimanded for it. I just don't think the PGML have any other choice other than to not let him ref another game in the Premier League.
It's such a high scrutiny, highly visible role, and it's always in the media all the time for often for not very glamorous things, is it?
Exactly.
It's usually slander. So it's just, I mean, it's like just a. What's I going to say? It's come at the wrong time almost on some level.
Totally. It's like we were saying, though. it's one of them things that I said it before. Look, we've all made mistakes. We've all done stuff where we've spoken about something. We've all got pissed or whatever and mouthed off about someone. But in this instance, being recorded and then having that recording released, when, like you say, Josh, you're in that position of authority and that position of responsibility within such a huge game. That's the biggest error, of course. Of course, he has opinions. Everyone has opinions on everybody. We slag off people left, right, and centre. Referees, players, managers. The refs do exactly the same.
Yeah,
they're just in that position where they can't be seen to be doing that. So the fact that he's done that, I mean, no one's surprised that he's got opinions like. I'm certainly not surprised he's got opinions like that. He's probably got opinions of lots of other managers. It just happens to be that he's talking about Liverpool and Klopp. On this instance, he probably says the same about other managers, I would imagine.
Exactly, yeah.
It's just this video identifies that, and unfortunately he's lost his job over it. So
yeah, it brings up a conversation about bias, doesn't it? Because that's where I think some people have come from on it. Oh, this happened, these things happened in Liverpool games, and therefore he's meant to be biased because he doesn't like, because of what he said. Therefore, every decision he's made in any Liverpool game is therefore now you can scrutinise to the nth degree.
Of course,
and that's where I think the problem comes in, because you get that into the heads of the general population or the pundit, whoever it is, and they'll just run with it. When I personally don't believe that he would have done anything particularly biased. He's a professional referee. He was a professional referee. I understand he's made mistakes, and that isn't a good showing on who he is potentially as a character. But that doesn't mean necessarily that he's definitely unprofessional or has made biased decisions in the game. So that's probably where it's going to run away from things now.
He was responsible for that awful Martin Odegaard handball that he didn't give for Liverpool. But Martin Odegaard basically played basketball with it in his own penalty area, and he didn't get given it. So that brings up a buzzword then. I know you guys have heard before, but unconscious bias, because that's something that potentially could come up in these things. But everyone's in theory, that's a good example. That Odegaard handball, it could have been exactly. So,
but I think that's for me, that's part of the game. Of course, I've got to be impartial, but there's nothing to say, like you say, with a bit of unconscious bias. If it's a last minute penalty shout and it happens to be for Liverpool, but you don't really want Liverpool to win the game, then you don't give it.
Yeah. I use an example is Bruno Fernandes got red carded for 2 yellows the other week. Yeah, after another one, and both those red cards probably shouldn't have been given. Right. But I think he has not done himself any favours over his antics with the referee for years. Right. So it's a case of there's going to be some level of unconscious bias in those decisions, because that's just how it goes on. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so I don't think anyone can disagree that those things do happen. I just think the referees, I think they actually probably do a pretty decent job on average of trying to eliminate that from their game. Yeah. But it is going to be there sometimes, and people are going to argue to toss one or the other.
They do it even at our level, because Ian does it with us. We were playing the other day, and I went, ref, that's a foul or something. And he went, no, it's not. And I was like, what do you mean it's not a foul? He said, well, it's because it's purples.
He's got a point.
Bastard.
He's got a point.
I'd have given if it weren't for purple.
What did he say that was wrong, Ben?
But there is an element of I've seen it in, and I think it's safe to say the two referees that we have regularly, Alex and Ian. If you give them grief and you give them shit, they don't forget. And when it comes around the next time there's a 50-50 or something might go the other way, you can bet their bottom dollar it ain't going to go your way. It's just life. And you can't blame them. They're not paid enough to put up with your shit. And if they can give you a little dig back without you being able to do anything about it, they fucking will. And I don't blame them.
Yeah. It's interesting though. I was talking to Gary the other day, and I said, he was asking about the pod and how it's going, and I said we should get you on.
Yes.
And he was like, no, I don't want to go on. I said, no, but it would be really good actually to get one of our refs on, get either Ian or Gary to get on and have a proper chat to them about their perspective of what it is we do, but not just that, about reffing and their kind of understanding and the pressures that they're under, because they both ref. They both ref regularly, Sunday league games and all sorts of games. So I'm sure they experience all sorts of stuff. It'd be really interesting to get their input. So, boys, if you're listening, I don't think Gary does listen, but I think Ian does from time to time. It'd be interesting to get one of them on and get their perspective, definitely, because I'm sure they've got lots to say on the subject.
Well, I've got a question and hypothetical then for referees. If we assume that there is some level of unconscious bias, unconscious or not, on some level, do we believe that that has contributed to the level of refereeing in this country in general? Because we always talk about how poor the refereeing is, and it's ultimately down to they made this decision where we don't feel it's correct, we made another decision, etc. Could those be unconscious bias decisions, and we think, and therefore they're poor referees on average? And I'm not saying you could entirely eliminate that, as we've always talked about. It's human. It's going to be a human thing, and therefore we also say there's going to be inconsistency, because not only because it's a human thing, but also different referees are going to have different opinions of different players, of different teams, of different managers. And then those, unless you had the same referee refereeing every single game and he didn't support any clubs associated with it at all,
the thing, though. They're all
never met
fans,
any of the players ever.
Yeah, totally.
So it's just like, so just a thought, it could be that we complain about it.
The only thing you could do, ultimately, all that would happen is you take the human element away and make it all automated, and
I would hate that,
becomes fucking dull and shit.
Yeah,
totally. I mean, it would be. It's great to think that the ref might be biased because he actually wants the other team to win. I think it's funny. I think it's part of the. I think it's all part of the game.
Yeah.
I think there will be something massively lost if we didn't sit down and have these conversations week to week with friends and all that, because we don't necessarily like it, but at least we then get to discuss that we don't like it, and that's what life's about on some level. Talk about things you love. So
the other element of it as well is that the conversation used to go before the VAR times, and we could go down a rabbit hole with it, but just before the VAR times and before Twitter and X and whatever else, your average Joe would go to the pub after the weekend and go, "Oh, fucking hell, did you see that we didn't get given that penalty?" And what is the one thing that everybody would always bounce back on? That it all comes around. Everybody gets their turn. It all balances out. And sadly, and I know I've harped on a lot about kind of the Arsenal agenda and things like that, and got a lot of abuse for it. But Liverpool have to be up there with one of the worst teams for this to have happened to for the league, because they've always got there's always something that's happened. The big thing, which I completely agree with, the big disallowed goal against Spurs, and all of the other bits and pieces that's happened to them in terms of refereeing decisions. And I just want to make it very clear, I'm not going, "Oh, it's always us," like sadly a lot of people say with the Liverpool situations with Hillsborough and everything like that. Completely away from anything like that, footballing only. There is an element of, why is it always us? Why is it always us? Oh, this happened to us with them. And it probably, as I say, for the league and the PGML, one of the worst clubs he could have been talking about. Do you think if he was talking about Burnley and Vincent Company, and they've now been relegated, fucked off back to the Championship, it wouldn't even, I reckon it would get 5 minutes of airtime and it would move on. And it's just life. But like I say, it probably couldn't have been a worse team for it to happen to, just because of their already chip on their shoulder about refereeing.
I'm interested in as to why it's come out now, because obviously it's a historical video. It's not recent.
I have a very good idea why it's come out now.
Go on.
What week are we in?
What would you?
What have we been talking about today?
International break.
Slow news week. What would have happened is that they would have had this video. I think it's the Sun that's got both videos. They would have sat on this video for a couple of weeks and gone, do we do it in the midst of big games week in, week out in the Premier League, all of this going on? Or do we go slow news week, let's fill some columns, and this is going to get it?
I don't know, though.
Like there's a bit of a conspiracy.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm not saying you're wrong.
I don't think it's a coincidence.
I don't think they have that level of control over social media.
No. What I'm saying, but if you've got the ability, if you've been given that information, because the video was sold to the Sun, it's not leaked on social media. It's been sold to the Sun. Right. The Sun have got their their copy print all over it. So that's what I mean. I think they've probably gone, it's international week, international break. Let's lob it out now and drop that grenade.
I get your point more. I also get the point as well, because you did mention, I'm not sure if you mentioned it pre-podcast or while we've been talking, about how obviously it's a friend of his or it used to be a friend of
Yeah,
his.
Well, it looks like
who's,
he's
who's cashed in and has got cashed in on it, and
He's
dealer, yeah.
Dealer stitched him up.
before today's video, me and Scott were joking in the chat, going, "Is the fella's somebody he's gone halves on a nose bag with?" And like we were joking, but if you look at it, he wasn't quite right, was he? It's just the way that he was talking, and he was like looking at the camera and looking back and looking at the camera, and that Jurgen Klopp. It just didn't add up, and then the second video explains everything. So,
do you reckon it was a trap? Do you reckon it was done on purpose?
Boy. I don't think so. There's a chance the guy's probably sat on it for a little bit and gone, I probably could get a bit of cash for this now.
He'd be pissed.
Yeah, or was a friend of David Coote and fell out with him.
That's his career, though. Do you know what I mean? That's not just a bit of a joke. That's his career gone. He's done. He's never going to ref again.
It's quite a young lad that he sat with as well. I think there's quite an age difference between the two of them, which makes me think he's at some strange place early in the morning. But the fact, just to circle back around the second part of the video, going, this video can't go anywhere. The moment you've got that camera, if you're conscious enough to go, I'm fucked if this video comes out. You should have the conscious to go, I shouldn't be saying this with a camera in my face.
Yeah. Well, he'll be a personality now. You'll see him on I'm a Celebrity next year.
That's the other thing as well.
Disgrace
get his book. We'll get a book out.
Yeah, it'll be a book. Yeah.
Referee,
what I said, all that bollocks.
Yeah, like you say, he'll be dropped into bloody. Somebody will pull out of I'm a Celeb, and he'll be. Old Matt Hancock was in.
Yeah, he'll be there. They'll be loving that.
Yeah. Anyway, I think that finishes off quite nicely for the evening, doesn't it, gents? Do you reckon?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to talk about? Josh, you hit me with some fantasy stuff, mate.
Well, yeah, okay. We'll do. We always tend to go
a
quite a long time on the fantasy, but I'll try to keep it brief.
You've had a resurgence.
This week.
Jack's doing well. I've gone a bit stale the last couple of weeks. Well, I didn't make the changes I should have made. I got a bit scared because I was doing quite well and I was just rolling along, and I didn't preempt the badness.
So, I got Salah in.
You wildcarded, right?
And Cunha, no.
Okay.
So I got Salah. I did wildcarded earlier. So I got Salah and Cunha in for Haaland and someone else. I don't know. So I got rid of Haaland, basically.
Yeah. You got Aït-Nouri in as well, though. So did you properly gamble on Wolves beating Saints?
No. So I had Aït-Nouri for a couple of weeks now.
Really good figures.
It's the thing about it is I try to look at the fixtures ahead of time. Wolves were poor. They have been poor. Well, actually, no, that's a lie. They've been okay this season. They've just had a run of really bad games to start the season. Now they're in a run of really good games, one of which included Southampton. So, they had Palace, then they had Southampton, they had Fulham. They got Fulham, sorry. Then they got Bournemouth, Everton, West Ham, Ipswich, Leicester in the next lot. So ultimately you're trying to pick players who, when they're involved in their team, whether it's a defensive or attacking purpose, they're involved quite heavily. So in this case, Aït-Nouri is like really, really, really attacking, but he's also listed as a defender, and he's really cheap, so he's a great buy, and he's got a load of really good fixtures to come. Cunha is their like goal scoring machine. If anyone's involved in the goal, he usually is, and they've probably got a chance to score a few in the next few games. And again, he's not that expensive. So as an example, a lot of people will be looking at João Pedro now.
Yeah.
Because Brighton have got a run of really good games coming up. He's just come back from injury, and before he was injured, he was playing 90 minutes every game.
Absolutely.
And he's only 5.4 million as a forward. So even if you had to bench him, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
So he's like, for me, the number one transfer in this week, almost essentially.
I think he's already gone up in value, to be fair.
Yeah, he probably has a little bit. So he was only 5.4, but he might be 5.5 now, but he's on the verge anyway. But he's a great example because he's a cheap player in a really good attacking team who's going to be involved in quite a lot of their goals, I would have thought, and they're going to have a really good run of fixtures. So that's just how you do it. The getting rid of Haaland thing was just worked out for me so far. I got rid of him and I got Cunha and Salah in. And let's be honest, they both scored. So I got quite lucky with it, and Cunha as well also scored. So he got 12 points this week as well. So He scored. He had a goal and an assist against Southampton, so he paid off. I got lucky with the Fabianski pick. I had Fabianski on my bench at wildcard, and it just so happens he's now West Ham's #1 goalkeeper. He was a backup goalkeeper, so I just got lucky there.
Dropped, didn't
he? Yeah. So he.
It always happens with West Ham. Every season
he played in the most obvious 0-0 draw you could have, West Ham Everton.
Yeah.
So I played him instead of David Raya, and I played Mikolenko instead of like Morgan Rogers or someone like that. Instead of Rico Lewis. So I got lucky with those two as well. So that's this. That this week is a bit of a resurgence, but I'm feeling pretty good about it. I am looking to make some changes though. Probably I need to get rid of Calvert-Lewin. He's done nothing, so he's going to go straight to João Pedro. No questions asked. Solanke and Son both playing Man City this week as well.
City, Fulham, and Bournemouth is Solanke's next three. He's bound to score against Bournemouth, isn't he?
Yeah. So forwards to potentially look at Cunha, Wissa.
Yeah.
Welbeck maybe, but I would get João Pedro. Chris Wood still maybe, although he's got more of a bad run of fixtures coming up. Raul Jimenez for Fulham. Jackson for Chelsea, and then Isak. So Isak's probably my #1 if you have the money.
Yeah.
So Solanke will probably go to Isak for me in a couple of weeks, if not this week. Calvert-Lewin will go to João Pedro. I want to get rid of Son and get Saka in. Saka's one of the guys I don't have, and they're going to have a good run of fixtures now.
Our team's going to basically be the same after this window, Josh.
Yeah, and then
apart from our defence.
And unbelievably, he may actually be coming in. The Portuguese maestro.
Are you going to bring him in?
May actually come into the team.
Are you going to sacrifice for him though?
So
that's a big one.
In a couple, so I think I'm going to get rid of Son.
Okay, that's
to get
fair.
Fernandes.
Yeah.
And I think genuinely, my transfers over this international break will be Son to Fernandes and Calvert-Lewin to João Pedro. I will bench Solanke against Man City. Play. I'll just try and look at it now. I'm trying to think of it. I'll probably play obviously Raya, Nuri, Gabriel, Mikolenko. I'll have Fernandes, Mbeumo, Palmer, Salah, Rogers, Cunha, and then João Pedro. And then the week after that, I will probably get rid of Solanke to Isak. Although I really want Isak. I really want to play Isak against West Ham this coming week.
I brought him in for Havertz, and it was a touch because Havertz did bugger all. So
and then get rid of Rico Lewis because he's not going to be playing any minutes for I don't know, Canate at Liverpool, or
he's a popular choice.
Lewis Hall, or again Nuri if you don't have him. Kirkes even could come in. Kirkes.
He might be injured though. I think he's not travelled. If he's injured, international.
Got 3 injuries,
and then I don't want to triple up on Arsenal's defence, so because I want Saka. So, but they're a good shout as well. Guardiola probably not anymore. Dalot or any of the Man United players probably not anymore.
Got to have Guardiola in there, mate. He regularly scores, man. In this current side, he's been my major point baller.
Other than Haaland.
Yeah. He's unreal.
I get it. But
you take him out, mate. You take him out, and I'm a
I don't have
man.
him. I don't have him.
Oh, you don't have him.
I'm just
Good.
saying.
Don't have him. Don't get him in. Leave him.
Just saying he's not someone I'm probably going to get in because I won't have the funds if I get my Fernandes and Isak and that in. So because then my middle of the park will be Fernandes, Saka, Palmer, Salah, and probably Rogers because I'll get rid of Mbeumo to get Saka in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
So, yes, that's it. But that's just my team. But
we're getting to the point where the teams are kind of they'll start to kind of look very similar now, apart from the odd 2 or 3 players because of the sort of key players that are scoring points.
Yeah.
The Haaland Salah quandary is the biggest one because he's the most transferred out player this week, Haaland.
Yeah, I think for good reason. And I know, let's be honest. No one transfers out Haaland thinking he's not going to score.
No, of course.
People know he's going to score.
Yeah.
What they're hoping is the saving on his money plus how well Salah is doing means that you're not going to lose anything because then you'll be able to use that money to get someone else, maybe a Saka and a Palmer as well, who will be able to match him if not beat him on his own, which I think is probably the case.
Yeah.
So That's why you do it. It's not because you don't want Haaland.
No,
it's because
absolutely.
it's because at the moment, the way City are playing and the way things are going, there's a good chance that the money you save and the players you can get in instead are going to beat him for points.
Yeah.
So you just,
I'm enjoying it this season. It's good. It's close, isn't it? Top of the league keeps changing places.
I'm enjoying the challenge. I've had a poor start and now I'm back in.
Yeah, you're back in the game, Joshy. It's not been. You've never been that far away.
I'm inside the top 500,000 now overall.
Yeah.
I wanna get up into the top 100k around Christmas time and see if I might be able to do it in a couple of weeks. But and then crack on the back end of the season.
Nice.
So,
nice.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's it.
Even Jack's doing well. Look, he's engaged now. He's into it.
I was up to 4th at one point, and I just
had a bad week.
I missed. I can't believe Keane didn't play for fucking Everton. There was no indication of him being injured. He didn't get a single minute.
Random,
It's annoying when that happens.
Like Josh went with Mikalenko. You could have gone with one or the other, and you just went with the right one of the two. But such is life. I'm just going to pick whoever Spurs are playing because they're handing out points for fun. And they got City next. City winless. So Palace were winless.
City are on the rails, man. They're on the rails.
Palace were winless. Got the points from Spurs. Ipswich were winless. Got the points from Spurs. It's City's turn. So
yeah. We'll have to get a City fan on soon to tell us exactly why we're all wrong.
We will.
Yes, the only one we know.
The only one. No, there's another one. There was another one.
There's a couple, but we've already had him on.
Yeah,
we've already had him on.
Yes, that's true. Yeah,
that's true.
That's very true. All right, boys. Well, thank you very much for that roundup on the FPL as well. It is it is late, and it's we've got to get ourselves to bed. But thank you very much, everybody, for listening. We are very close to a milestone of 4,000 listens, which is pretty cool. So I think we're only about 100 off. So it'd be nice to get the numbers back up and share it for us, and we'll make sure we drop it into the main chat as well, especially for the new people joining. Definitely tell your mates about it. If you've made it this far, thank you for listening.
Yeah, cheers, boys.
Thank you.
Enjoy yourself,
lads, as well.
Have a good game. Top of the league clash on Friday night, lads.
Yeah, enjoy. Best of luck.
Yeah. Graveyard shift 9:30. Hang around for a big one.
What are those? Yeah. Graveyard shift.
Yeah, 9:30. 9:30. What do you mean? What are those? Shut your face.
Gonna get those in January. Don't worry.
Yes, you are, mate.
The worst time. Anyway.
It's awful. Right, nice one, lads. Good to talk.
Bye bye.